Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, July the 16th, and it's been an okay day, but we got some rain in the late afternoon, so I'm filming this later than, this is definitely post-supper. Yeah, we've been having, I just realized I forgot to check on the wildfire status. Although we do have wildfires still going on in Alberta, but certainly in the news we've been covering the wildfires and how many wildfires there are in BC, which is they have a lot more than we do. So not good, not good. And talking, I think the headline yesterday, they were talking about the military was having to go in and help to try to contain the out of control forest fires. So not good. We're certainly having an interesting weather. We're certainly having interesting weather this summer. It seems to be more dramatic than I remember most. Tornadoes in various areas, the level of wildfires, the number of places that are going heat wave. Our temperatures have been okay for summer, but remember a while ago when I said I think it'd be really great if every day we just had a little bit of rain. Well, we have been getting a little bit of rain every day. There was one day, I was trying to remember which day, it was like I got hail, a huge ton of hail. It's one of those ones where you go like you slightly fear for the windows, but yeah, so it's been interesting from a weather perspective, but doing okay. Still safe where I am, so that's positive. If you are new to the channel, this is a channel about cross stitching and sometimes crocheting, depending on how my week has gone. So if you're new, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. And as always, many thanks to those of you who come back regularly and check on my stitching journey and see what I've done over the past week. So with that, let's get into some of the comments from last week's video. So thank you to those for the many complimentary comments on the finish of my Canadian Patriotic Sampler and the compliments about my changes. I really like the ones where somebody says, "You've made me be a little braver about making changes on my own pieces," which I highly support. I love that. I love the personalizations. I think that's awesome. And if by watching this channel you are gaining confidence in being able to make those changes, thank you. That is a huge compliment. So thank you very much. Angie made the comment that I should have played "Oh Canada" slowly while I, rolled it up and did all that kind of stuff. And that's a good comment. I'd have to go out and check to see what the copyright situation is for the music, because with YouTube you have to check your copyright situation very carefully when you're putting music in there. So but thank you, that would have been slightly funny. And then I forgot to write on who it was. I said, okay, no, seriously, now you have to say what the one change is. The one change is there's just one spot where I would have moved things over one stitch to the left. So again, not dramatic, and certainly even for me looking at the piece from a distance, I'd be able to look at it and go, it's totally fine. If I was looking at it up close, I'd look at that one spot and go, it should have been one to the left, but it's totally fine. It's totally fine. It's complete. We're not going back and adjusting anything, so it's all fine. Carol, thank you for your comment about, actually, Carol and Rachel Q both commented that they were grateful that I mentioned "Come From Away." So yeah, great musical, great musical. If you ever have the opportunity to see it, like I say, certainly here in Canada, it's playing on Apple TV. I can't speak to where it's available in other countries. But yeah, and if you have the opportunity to go see it live and in person, it is fantastic. Highly recommend. 2 thumbs up. And like I say, everyone, because I've seen it multiple times, anyone who I've seen it with has just enjoyed it thoroughly and has said they would be, it's kind of like that, if you hear of it coming back again, you tell me, because we're getting tickets. We're going to go see it again. So yeah, so if you have the chance, go see that. And Carolyn Zook from C Zook Stitch, at some point over the last few weeks, also had an opportunity to go see Come From Away, and she recommended it as well. She enjoyed it. Okay, Jay, sorry to hear about your mom's passing. Jay is looking for some suggestions on a commemorative piece for his mom. Okay, so not surprisingly, I don't know your mom very well. Okay, I don't know your mom at all. It's not even very well. I don't know your mom at all. So I can't give you huge suggestions, but I can give you thematic suggestions. So one, is there, like, did your mom have a really favorite color that she just loved? And you could come up with a design sort of that you could do in a monochromatic and do it in a color that was her favorite color. Or if she had, you know, like if she had a specific flower that she really loved, find a pattern that incorporates that flower in some fashion, and stitch that. You know, you can always add initials, you know, so flowers, butterfly, like something like that, where you can sort of go, okay, something that where you go, when you see it, you go, that makes you think of your mom. So I'm thinking back to that needlepoint kit that I bought at the Ujamagramma's sale, where not that I do needlepoint, although apparently I am going to be doing needlepoint. I bought it because honestly, that's the picture that I look at and I can't help but think of my aunt. So, you know, something like that. I don't know that that's terribly specific. So if any of you out there have other suggestions for things to stitch in commemoration, throw them down into the comments. Would love to hear those. And then in terms of stitching, you know, because he also talked about, you know, working it over the course of the next year. And so by the time you get to the first anniversary, having a completed piece. And depending on the size of picture that you've chosen, you'd be able to figure out, you know, sort of how much you have to get done every month to meet your target goal. I would just say, just make sure that you stitch on it on her birthday. So every month, on whatever day of the month that is, make sure you work on it on that day, because you'll just have a little moment, you know, even after the fact, looking at it saying, right, I worked on that, you know, every day on her birthday, for sure, while achieving your target stitching goal. So yeah, sorry I don't have great options for you, but just sort of those are the concepts if I was doing a piece, you know, to commemorate someone. And then H. Eden, yes, so speaking of patriotic patterns, she's working on that Freedom Ring. I was going to look it up. I think that's a really big one, so kudos to you. Don't know how, okay, maybe you're a super speedy stitcher and you're going to whip that thing out like lightning, but I kind of looked at that title and went, ooh, that sounds very familiar, and I go like, isn't that a pretty big one? Woo, good for you. And last week I was planning on having this here so I could show it on the Flosstube, which of course I forgot. But so I did remember to pull it out for this one. This is the American version of the Patriotic Sampler by Jeanette Douglas Designs. I did look on Hoffman Distributing, which is a big distributor. This is still listed on the Hoffman site. So any of your local needlework shops should be able to get it from Hoffman. If they don't necessarily shop from Hoffman, you can always get this directly. Your local needlework shop can order directly from Jeanette Douglas Designs. But and there is a thread pack for this as well. This was stitched on So this was stitched on 32 count lamb's wool linen. So 32 and above, it should work. The thread pack should work. I don't have the thread pack because of course I'm planning on when I get to working on this one, which is years down the road, this will be having some redesigns of its own as well. So anyway, just wanted to show that again, not really again, show that so you could see it. All right, let's get into some stitching. So what have I worked on this week? Well, let's start off with my infamous Winter ABCs by Little House Needleworks, which I'm doing for my current ABC picture. So what did I get done? So I got Q and R. I still have not finished off the bird here. There's 2 more colors with 4 stitches left to go in here. And I know I said I do better when I've got the one-off things when I do it first off of a stitching session. Well, there is a bird down here on top of this snowman, which has the same colors. So I was going to wait till I got that bird in and then do all those bits. But of course, as you can see, I didn't get that far. It's fine. You know, technically the goal would be to have gotten all the way to, you know, the bottom of R done, which is not the case, and the snowmen go a little bit below that. But I don't know, it was still, I don't know, I want to say like about 350 stitches I got in. So it felt like a decent stitching session. So tonight's session, you know, we'll continue working down into the S and the T. We'll see how much of that I get done. There's these snowmen are a large amount of stitching, so they're back to back. So I don't know that I'll get all the way to the bottom of T done. S for sure, probably get a start on T, and we'll see how that goes. I am stitching this on a 28 count Springfield Sage Lugana using the called for colors, except I switched out roasted chestnut for cocoa bean. So yeah, it's coming along, making progress. I commented to a friend of mine that we're getting to that point in time where I need to start kitting up my next ABC project. Dun, dun, dun. Because we will be coming up for a finish on this one in the next, probably in the next month and a bit. Then on the 11th, I was working on my Just Nan Remember 911 piece in commemoration of 9/11. I did okay on this one. It took longer than I was expecting, but I did get, yes, I need to hold it up, was the word remember done. This was done, is stitched 1/1, full crosses. I have to say, I did far better at the first 4 letters than I did in the last 4 letters. Because I came in and I did the M and the B, and then I had to take a pause and do in the E and the R. So it took a little longer than I was expecting. Got some crocheting done while I was procrastinating finishing the 1/1. You would think with all of the 1/1 that I did for the Jeanette Douglas thing that, you know, I'm just going to say this again. I don't love 1/1. I can do it. I do it. I don't love it. I am not an over 1 stitcher. I like over 2. Anyway, so I finished that off, got the back stitching done at the sort of the front of each of these letters, and then completed this band of plate stitching with the variegated and finished off the tail end of this last one. There was just a little bit left to go and I was out of thread, so I went, okay, when I do this one, because this is the last of those color bands to go in. So yeah, so that's done. So yeah, there's I was going to have this number ready to go. So I have finished, other than the beads, which I have not put on yet, I have everything to band 17 done. There are 4 more bands left for this one to be completed. I'm still targeting a finish in September, which I think is totally doable. I'll work on it in August, on August the 11th. We'll see how much I get done, and then however it works out in September, I'm fairly confident that this will be finished in September. So that one's coming along. All right, and then of course the big task for this week was to get the rest of my July Quaker completed, so I was successful on that one. Let's do that. So I got it all finished using all of the called for colors. I am stitching this on a 40 count White Verdal, one strand of floss over 2 fabric threads. And I put my initials in over here. Originally I was going to put them in down here, and it was going to be a really tight fit. So I just sort of came up, there was a gap here, and then after I had them in, I looked at it and went, well, of course, that's of course where they should have gone, because in the original design there's this small motif, this one, and there isn't one here. And clearly for someone who likes symmetry and balance, that clearly is where the initials should have gone, because now it looks, you know, balanced. So it did get finished, so that's positive. It was a big stitch. I was having a little chat with myself going, ooh, you might be Quakering out here. It's, I have 6 out of the 7 months completed. April, as we all know, got started and did not get finished. So now that I bought the August one, I need to get that one loaded into Markup RXP so I can see how many stitches are in there. I'm really hoping it's not another 3,000 stitch, because that might be met with a little bit of, you know, dread, dare I say. But if I don't keep up with it, we won't finish them by the end of the year. And I do like them. I like them when they're done. But by about Wednesday, I was like, do I really have to do another motif anyway? So hopefully, hopefully that won't be the case in August. So check back. All right. Let's talk about, I'm going to leave the new stitching project, because that is going to be the topic for this week's video. So let's just quickly do some of the other things. So Stashquisitions, brace yourself. I have no Stashquisitions to show this week. I should have Stashquisitions to show next week. Announcements, just a quick reminder for anybody who is in the greater Calgary area that we are having our stitching at the library this coming Saturday, July the 22nd, from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the Signal Hill Library. So if you're in the area and you can come for any part of that, we would love to see you and come and have a bit of a stitch with you. That would be great. All right, so let's talk. So as you will have seen from the title of this one is called The Gifts of the Magi. I just had about, was like going, I've got the bag here. So last week I showed you the start of my new July start for Christmas in July, Jolly July, blah, 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 working on something Christmassy in the middle of the year. And I am working on, this is called Frankincense by the Victoria Sampler. This is an old chart. So the copyright on this one is 1995. I've had it for, I'm probably at least 20 years. I'm quite confident I did not buy it as soon as it came out. I do remember I walked into a local needlework shop that was in business at the time, and I was in the shop and was looking at it on the very back wall. They had the Gifts of the Magi finished and framed and beautifully matted, just stunning. And I looked at the shop owner and went, I need that and everything to do it. Now, it's taken me 20 years to get to the point where I'm actually working on it, which is totally fine. So let me show you where I got to this week. Made decent progress. Let's bring the board with me. That would make things easier. So I am stitching this on a 28 count Antique White Lugana. I will say I feel that it's fairly important that this actually be stitched on 28 count fabric. So one, you need it on a 28 count because you've got all the specialty stitches. So this is not this is not Aida compatible. This is not a good design to be working on Aida. You will just really annoy yourself if you do that. And then given the fibers that are being used and the beads that are being applied to this, like even 32, I don't think I would be happy. So this is one where it calls for it to be stitched on a 28 count, and I would highly recommend that it actually be stitched on a 28 count. I've seen from my own stitching, you know, the way the beads are fitting in, that on 32, Anyway, so what did I get accomplished? So I got this next band down here, which is a series. You can't really see it. Maybe next week. It's a series of Queen Anne stitches, followed by some satin stitches at the bottom. I've got the top of this lid started. So this band is not complete. There is a tremendous amount of counting in this. So there's a separate, in the chart, there's a separate pattern just for this that's enlarged. And because I pulled this design into Markup RXP, I put that page in and had it all set up, and I was literally sort of crossing off every couple of horizontal stitches so that I could make sure I got the counting right. And they've actually got a sort of this cautionary note in the thing going, make sure you're counting a lot and be very, very careful about your counting so that it works out the correct way. So it was like every two horizontal stitches, I marked them off and then did 2 more and marked them off and did 2 more and marked them off. So it all worked out okay. Did the satin stitches here at the bottom now, and then so there's one more step left to do on the top here, which in just a minute when I haul out the stuff we'll talk about that. But I was kind of looking at saying, like, I really need to have a fairly decent chunk of time to work on it where I can concentrate. And you know, we were getting to the tail end of the week and I was feeling a little bit burnt out from the July Quaker. So I just went, never mind, we'll just come down here, we'll do this row of Smyrna stitches, and then again, this is just a band of satin stitches, which not a lot of counting required in that, so that was just a nice, you know, stitch over two stitches, and it was totally fine. So decent progress on this one. This is band 7 of 19. So again, making decent progress on this band, which is band 5, is not complete. There's more to do on this. This is the one that I've said there's a component that has me quite concerned. So I'll show that one. So down here in this band below the word frankincense, the leaves that you see in here are done with ribbon. So it's ribbon embroidery, which I've done it once before. I'm not very good at it, so I'm very, very concerned about this. So I do have a little thing in my head going, like, I probably need to go see if I can't find, so what's called for is YLI ribbon, and I do have it. We'll talk about that in just a second. I think I need to go out and find some more so that I can just practice what those leaves are going to look like. So they don't even have to be a green color. I could get it in any color and just practice what to do with those leaves, because that's the part that has me really nervous. Everything else in this thing, so there's, you know, spiderweb roses and lazy daisy stitches, none of which concern me, but those leaves with the ribbon. Anyway, dear friends who are coming to the library, we may be having a conversation about this while we're there. But yeah, now I will say the cover pictures on these charts do not do them justice at all. At all. I remember very distinctly buying the charts and on my way home, because I used to live further south than I do now. So I stopped by my mom's on the way home and said, "Oh my goodness, look what I just bought." And she was kind of like, "Okay, glad you like them." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, they're so much better in real life than they are in these pictures." So this is a series of 3 charts, not surprisingly. Surprisingly, I'm starting with Gifts of the Magi #1, Frankincense. Then, so this is Gifts of the Magi 2, which is gold, which is incredibly Krynic heavy and incredibly bead heavy, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. And then Gifts of the Magi 3, which is myrrh, which again has more frightening ribbon leaves, but I figure once this is the one where I will figure out how to do the ribbon leaves, and then this is the one where I'll have to do it again, but I'll be okay because it will be my second time through. So that's the series of 3. These are by the Victoria Sampler. Now, if you have an LNS that has some older charts in them, they may have these. The copyright on, I was going to say, is it all 3 of them? No. Okay, so Gold and Frankincense have a copyright of 1995, and Myrrh has a copyright of 1997. So if you've got an LNS that has older charts, you may be able to get these as a paper chart. These are available directly from the Victoria Sampler as PDF charts. So if you're interested in these, they are still available as PDFs directly from the Victoria Sampler. They're awesome in real life. Okay, so that's the series of 3. Now, when I was talking to the shop owner when I was getting them kitted up, again, it used to be that you could get thread packs for each of the charts. Just a minute. And so I said to her, you know, hey, can you, like, is it cheaper for me to get the individual things than to buy the thread packs? And so she very graciously went away, did all the math for me, and came back and said, actually, you're better off getting the individual components, and then you have whatever's left, which is exactly what I did. Other than I did buy there was a bead pack for the gold chart, and so I did get that one. So yes, there's all these things in here. There's gold beads, gold bugle beads, silver bugle beads, gold spangles, and the brass heart lock to go on the thing. So all of these beads and the bugle beads are Mill Hill. So I didn't check to see that they're all available, but you know, gold and silver bangles, I'm pretty sure those are still available. The only thing that you would then have to find is a lock And it does tell you where the lock is from. So I didn't check to see that because, you know, I bought the bead pack. So there was that. But for all of the other things, I have full spools and skeins of that. I did not get the thread packs. Now, true to form, I am changing one color. Now, given I'm filming at night and the lighting is not the best, there's one thing that you won't easily be able to tell on camera, is that so this dark color here that's used here, technically it's under there and it's used elsewhere. The called for is black. I am changing that. So when I kitted it up, she kitted up as called for. And so I did get the black Trebizond silk. But in my infinite wisdom, I have swapped that out. It's hard to tell and glare. I've swapped it out and I'm doing it with navy. I always prefer navy to black, so that's what I'm doing. And I do think the combination of the Nefertiti wildflowers, which is usually what it's done in conjunction with, I think it actually works better with the navy blue as opposed to the black. So from a color perspective, that's my only color change. In this one, I do need to, this week I will need to sort of come up with the DMC equivalent of this, because I will need to, the outlining on the word frankincense is done in black, so I will want to do that in a navy blue, you know, but that's not going to be that difficult. So I don't have that, but here is my colors. So one multicolored from Karen Wildflowers Nefertiti. Here is my infamous Wildeye ribbon so that I can do all of my leaves. So the Trebizond is a silk product, which is, I would say it's akin to a pearl cotton. I was going to say 5. Yeah, probably a 5-ish. But it does fray. It can come apart. So you do need to be, so I kept this chunk, which was left over from when I was putting some stuff in, where it can come apart. So you just need to be careful. So I will still use this the next time it comes out. But anyway, so this is a silk. It's just a thicker silk. The Trebizond silk is a product from Access Commodities. It comes on, you know, the spools that you see, like the SWA 103 and the SWA, I think it's SWA Jobelan. So yes. And another thing with these designs being part of a series, so one of the reasons why it worked out to be cheaper to get the individual components is because the colors are used in predominantly the colors that are used in frankincense are also used in myrrh, other than this royal blue is the only addition into the color palette. So yeah, so a bunch of different Trebizond silks. Number 16 Krynic, a bunch of number 8s, not surprisingly. And if you're looking at those and thinking, man, all of those golds are the same, they are not the same. Hard to see on camera. There's another one. But they actually are 3 different colors. And then one of the interesting things is that the gold color that is used for, that is used so predominantly in both this and in the myrrh one, it is Anchor, specifically Anchor, so I did get that. It is Anchor 887. So she does call for some DMC flosses. So it's not that the Victoria sampler was unfamiliar, but for what they were looking for, they specifically went with Anchor. So I did get the Anchor floss for that. And so one of the other things is I've seen some commentary in some places where people are like, I don't really enjoy satin stitches for whatever reason. They don't lie well for me. So one of the interesting things as I was working on this was, if you looked at this and we're going like, it's just horizontal satin stitches of varying lengths, you know, it should go relatively quickly. Well, it doesn't. Okay, one, because there's a really big counting thing going on. This one went fairly quickly, but even then, you're using two anchor threads over is what you're using for the satin stitches. So I do railroad as I'm doing those, which really means that as you're putting your needle back down, you are putting it in between the two strands of floss, so that I am making sure that they lie, to the best of my ability, very, very, very flat, so that you can see both strands, so that you actually get the coverage. So it's interesting when you look on this cover photo image, right? It looks like you've got all, like how streaked that looks. Now, I don't know if in real life that's how it looked, because they did last year, earlier this year, in the Victoria Sampler Facebook group, they did actually sell off their models of these 3 charts as a series. But so I felt that the coverage that I was getting with the 2 strands was working really well, but it did mean that I was stitching slower than you would think potentially with a satin stitch, because I was railroading every time and counting and marking off and making sure, like there are ones where I went back and re-put them in, they're not lying the way that I want them to, would take out a couple and go back and redo them. But I think my coverage is coming out pretty well. So my plan for this series is do one every July. So yeah, it's going to take me 3 years to get the whole series complete. Last year, if you probably won't remember, but in the month of July, I worked on another Victoria sampler. July of last year was when I did the Dreaming of a White Christmas by the Victoria Sampler. And I specifically chose that one because it was, 1, I wanted to actually work on it. 2, it's of an equivalent size to these ones. And so what I wanted to test was whether or not over the course of a month, where I was also doing, had a monthly chart, could I get it finished in the month? And I did get it finished. So it made me sort of, when I got that goal accomplished last year, I went, okay, so your plan for doing the Gifts of the Magi is workable. Every July, one of these is going to come out and hopefully get completed. So we're starting with number 1. We're working on frankincense. Like I say, I feel like I've made decent progress. Now, I did say that I was going to talk to you about what the last bit that I need to do on that middle band is. Sorry, so I'm just going to get my... So what I've got left to do up here is using a number 8 braid. I will be overlaying this amongst all of these sections. So let me just pretend. Let's see if I can do... Okay. This isn't going very well for me, but it'll give you the gist. So I'm going to use my number 8 braid, and it's going to be couched over top to outline each of those sections. So the couching is that you're just sort of going to lay it on top, and then I'm going to use another Krynic, thinner metallic, and every, 4 or 5 spots just sort of do a quick little stitch over top to fasten it down. But so the gold braid is going to outline each of those sections. So it should look pretty good at the end. So check back next week, because for sure by next week when I show this, that part will be done. And then we'll see. Now that my July Quaker is complete, so this should be a really good week for getting progress on this one done. It's the 16th today, so sorry, I just need to make sure that it goes into the right bag, because like I say, there's more than one gold. Anyway, so yeah, it's gonna be an interesting journey. Like I say, gotta figure out what to do with those leaf things. Everything else that's called for in here, like the specialty stitches, don't bother me at all. Like everything's totally fine except for that ribbon embroidery to make those leaves. That's the only part that has me concerned. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to get to the end of it. But yes, there's the start. There's the start of my frankincense. Very happy with how this is coming along. Yeah. And the goal is to have this completed by the end of the month. So I've got about 2 weeks left to work on this. So that's great. So we'll see how fast it goes. Like I say, so we're at, I've already forgotten. Like the next band to work on, once I get the outline done here, we'll be on band 8 of 19. So like 8, 9, and 10 look fairly doable. 11 is the one that freaks me out a little bit. And then below that, I think everything below that is totally doable. Yeah, sort of like once I hit band 12, I'll go, whew, I'm in the home stretch. So we'll see how it goes. Check back next week. But there is my Gifts of the Magi number 1, the beginning of frankincense. So just in case anybody who's taking notes on what I'm working on in my 5-year plan, the Gifts of the Magi 2 and 3 are in the schedule for July for the next 2 years. Yes, 2024 and 2025, yes. I had a moment where I was like, wait a minute, how does that? No, I'm pretty sure they're in there. It's the next 2 years. Anyway, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much I can get accomplished this week. And then we'll see what else I work on. All right. So that's all I have for the stitching for this week. For the crocheting, had a bit of a chuckle as I was pulling my blanket out, saying it's so hard to tell on camera. So I've decided that for next week, I need to start measuring where I'm at. But I did finish off the ball of white from last week, and I've started another ball of white. So we are now on ball number 6. And so yes, still making progress. I think I was sort of holding it up and went, how far do we think we are? It's like, I think maybe about 40% of how long I want it to be. This is truly going to be one where I just keep going until I go, is that how long I want it to be? Is that how long I want it to be? It's because it's not like the pattern's changing. But yes, still thoroughly enjoying working on this one. Yeah, making progress. So yes, check back next week because I will have measured where I am as of this week, so I can tell you how many inches that I've added by next week. And as a friend of mine said, what are you doing about the poncho? I'm like, I haven't done anything with the poncho. I'm avoiding it. I'm procrastinating, which is kind of annoying because I have another poncho project that I want to be working on. But I've also looked at the next poncho project and went, it's probably a good one to start working on in September. Just because the weight of it will be heavier and, you know, during these summer months, you know, and given the length of this one, I am finding it that I need to wait for sort of those evenings where we're having evening rain and it cools off in here. And then that's a good time to be crocheting on the blanket or the Afghan, because then it's okay. You know, when I come in here and it's like gloriously warm and sunny, that is not a good time to be crocheting or not crocheting on these ones. All right. So with that, that's all I have for you for this week. So I hope everybody is doing well. As always, thanking the people of the Ukraine. I was watching something on TV. It's just a television show, and they were talking about sort of Russia-Ukraine relations, and I went, wow, that is very, very, very topical watching it now. So that was interesting. So thinking of the people of the Ukraine, I hope everybody is staying safe. I hope, you know, everybody's off doing fun thing. Well, for me, I love the summer and heat and warmth and being outside and doing all that good, glorious things. I know that's not everybody's view of summer, but just remember, safety first, safety first, safety first. Safe boating, safe swimming pool things, safe river activities, safety first, safety first, safety first. So I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying healthy, and I hope you're finding some time to do some stitching, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.